Okay, so in tonight's program, Dave will give us a taste of spring as he teaches us about warblers. Dave has been, he's been birding for more than 40 years. As a youngster, he was exposed to the out of doors by his parents through camping, hiking, fishing, and travel. He became a serious bird watcher during the blizzard of '78. Dave taught middle school science in Reading for 37 years. He's a graduate of Mass Audubon's Birder Certificate Program, a year-long study of birds. And he also attends Maine Audubon's Hog Island Field Ornithology Program. We attended that. Presently, Dave is a volunteer teacher naturalist at Mass Audubon's Joppa Flat Sanctuary in Newburyport, where he works with school groups and leads bird walks. Dave is also active with the Ipswich River Watershed Association. Dave loves to share his passion and enthusiasm for birds with folks, and he leads bird walks in his hometown for the Brookline Bird Club, the trustees, and other organizations. And Dave is a past president of the Brookline Bird Club. So I want to thank Dave for generously offering your time and your expertise to us. And before we begin today, I'd just like to say a few words in honor of the original stewards of the unceded land where RPL is located, the Pawtucket Band of the Massachusetts Tribe. The Massachusetts Tribe are the descendants of the original people that the English first encountered when they came to what is now the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Pawtucket, also the name of the land, is now called Lynn. It's a vast territory that extends from the Piscataqua River in New Hampshire down to the Charles River. And we acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land, waterways, living beings, including birds, and the Pawtucket, the people who have stewarded this land for many millennia. And if you want to learn more about the Pawtucket people, I'll put a link to their website in the chat. Okay, so without further ado, let's welcome Dave Williams.
Well, thank you very much, Melissa. It's wonderful to be here. Some of you know that I'm doing this from Florida, and my wife and I are enjoying ourselves immensely down here. Thank you very much to Melissa Selden for all of her work in putting this together. Thank you to my wife, who's my biggest critic and supporter. I also want to thank these following photographers: Stan Deutsch, Bob Minton, Bob Siciliano, and Mike Densmore. They've very kindly allowed me to use some of their wonderful photographs. They're great guys, great birders, and great photographers. So thank you. Here is a list of some of the resources I used in putting this presentation together. These and more will be included in the Warblers resource list that I've put together, and Melissa will be sending out to you. Tonight's presentation will discuss some of the wood warblers we may be able to see around here during spring migration. Warblers are small, active birds with sharp, pointed bills. They are insect eaters. Warblers are tiny. Their brightly colored feathers make them stand out as they flit from branch to branch, hunting insects. Plumage is varied, but most are brightly colored except for the ground-dwelling species. There are over 50 species of warblers in the United States and Canada, but most warblers don't visit backyards because they aren't feeder birds, and they typically stick to forested areas. About 20 species of warblers nest in Massachusetts, with 4 species consistently nesting here in Reading, and I'll point those out as we move forward. The spring migration of warblers occurs in waves or pulses. I've attempted to arrange the warblers I'll discuss by early, middle, and late waves. I will not be discussing warblers in the fall as well. So, how do you find warblers in the spring? I've put together a few points here for you. Select a habitat. Now, during migration, many warblers aren't picky. They're looking for a place with available food, water, and shelter. It could be most anywhere that's going to provide those things for them. Remember, some of these birds are coming from South America, Central America. They're traveling long distances, and they've got one thing on their mind, and that's to get to the breeding grounds ASAP. So they're not going to linger here in our area. They may stay for a day or two, maybe 3, depending on the weather, to chow down, redevelop their strength, and then they're going to take off. A key point that I always make in my bird watch is to look where the sun shines. Remember, warblers are insect eaters. So when the sun hits the flowers, the shrubs, the trees, the petals, the buds, they open up, the insects are drawn to them, and in turn, the warblers will be drawn to the insects. Now, when you're out birding, think big and small. By that, I mean a small park, a backyard, tiny piece of conservation area, a school backyard, a cemetery, can be just as productive as any large wildlife refuge. Canny bird watchers know to watch the weather during spring migration. The largest concentration of birds and fallouts generally occur when the south winds are met by some change in the weather. Rain, snow, thunderstorm, a quick shift in wind direction, that can put the birds down, and the birding can be excellent. The other thing I can't stress enough in May is to get out and bird in the rain. I'm not talking a thunderstorm, but those May showers, rainstorms, get out and bird. I've had some of the best birding of my life during May rainstorms. The other key in finding warblers is to listen, use your ears, and try to track down any songster you hear. And last, use the existing intelligence that's out there. There's some great technology such as eBird, Birdcast, Merlin, etc., that can help you. Now, let's go over those 6 points again, and I'll try to illustrate them. You want to look where the sun shines. These Nashville warblers are actively foraging among the petals and the buds that are open. So the insects are coming into them, and then the birds are chowing down. Look at that Nashville warbler on the left that's grabbed a bug. So this is a key point. Look where the sun shines. Think big and small. So again, I hope everybody gets into Mount Auburn for a walk to enjoy, the cemetery, the trees, the history, the birds, but it's not necessary. You can go up to Bear Meadow in Reading, the town forest in Reading. But in the middle of May, check out your own backyard. Now, weather again is key. In this map is a slide of an excellent tool called Birdcast. This neat tool attempts to provide real-time predictions of bird migrations when they migrate, where they migrate, and how far they will be flying. There are bird migration forecast maps, live bird migration maps, local bird migration alerts, and more. This is free. I've already got it on my phone, my iPad, and here on my laptop. Now, use your ears. So when you hear this black-throated green singing, try to zoom in on this bird and see if you can't locate him. You put the song with the bird, and that's a good way to begin. Now, Learning bird song takes a lot of practice. A lot of you participated in my birding by ear program last year. So I'm not going to repeat that here and now, of course, but this app you see in front of you called Blackwire is by far and away, in my opinion, the best tool you can use to learn bird song. Now, the intel you can use on the right is eBird. This is a massive worldwide database of bird sightings put together by Cornell. And it's done in the United States by county. So here are the recent sightings from Middlesex County. This is from a couple of days ago. So you can find out what's being seen, where it's being seen. You can see pictures, and there are maps for you to follow to get to these various sites. They have a mobile app you can put on your phone, and this is a very powerful tool. On your left is Merlin. I'm not sure what happened here, but Merlin uses artificial intelligence to help you identify birds by sound and by photograph. Keep in mind, it's not perfect. It's far from that. But it is a tool that can help you on your way. Now that you've located some of these avian jewels, how do you go about identifying them? It is possible to identify many species of warbler by visual clues alone, provided there is a good enough view of the bird to note its distinguishing marks. That's the rub though, right? Getting a long enough look at these birds. They're forever moving about. Some are high up in the tree. Some are out at the end of the canopy. Some are tucked down low. So it can be a challenge. With only a brief glimpse, however, it may be necessary to take other factors into consideration when identifying a warbler. You'll need to become a detective, assembling as many clues about the bird as possible to try to solve that puzzle. Now, here is some advice when trying to identify an unknown warbler. Focus on the face. You want to, almost every single warbler can be identified by its face pattern. So what you want to do is to look for color pattern around the face, an eye ring, is it complete or broken? A contrasting dark eye line or pale eye stripe, where is it located? And contrast between the cheeks and the throat, or between the cheeks and the side of the neck. So here is a sheet of photographs of just the heads of birds. And believe me, with a little time and practice, you can identify almost any warbler if you get a long enough look at their face. Now, it will help if you learn a little bit of anatomy of birds, and I've tried to highlight some of that here. And as I move forward now, I'll try to elaborate on some of these things as well. So look for color pattern around the face. Now, many of you are quickly taken by the gorgeous yellow and black of this stunning Cape May warbler. But if you can, just focus on the face. See that black line through the eye, the chestnut cheek patch, the black on the crown. Here's a black and white warbler. Again, focus on the face. Look at the contrasting black and white. Look at the white eye stripe above the eye. That eye circle or eye ring, the white below the eye. So that's one of the things you want to do is look for color patterns. Now, let's talk a little bit about eye rings. As its name says, it's a ring around the eye. This Nashville warbler looks big-eyed because of that pronounced white eye ring contrasting to that gray head. You can see it no matter if it's upside down, inverted at a 45-degree angle. Remember, these birds are all little acrobats that are going to be feeding in the trees. Now, here's a northern parula. Again, try to draw your attention away from that stunning breast color and look at the face. Look at that eye ring. See, it's not complete. I would call those eye arcs. Half a circle above, half a circle below. So if that's all you saw, that's one good clue to help you to come up with its identification. Now, let's talk about eye lines, okay? This is a Tennessee warbler. They're rather drab. If you get them in good light, you'll see some pretty neat green color on their back. But what they have is that black line that goes all the way through their eye and that pale eyebrow stripe just above it. So if you see a dull, drab warbler, but you see that eye line and eyebrow, there are some clues to help you determine what it is. Now we have this spectacular prairie warbler. Look at that bold black eye line all the way through the eye, and look at the big arc beneath it. So if this is all you saw on a bird, just the head, you would be able to identify this bird. All right, now let's talk about contrast between cheeks and the throat. This is a common yellow throat. This bird nests here in Redding. Look at the black bandit's mask contrasting with that bright yellow throat and the white on the crown. He's singing for us, even though I didn't intend that. Look at the contrast here. This is a palm wobble. These guys will be in Redding in 2.5, 3 weeks. Look at the contrast and focus just on the head. Look at that chestnut cap. Look at that yellow line through the eye, the contrasting brown cheek, and those yellowish, incomplete eye rings. You're starting to get some of the things I'm getting at here. All right, now let's move on and talk a little bit more about some other points. We're going to move past looking at just the head, and we're going to look at some behaviors and other items as well. Now, there are some birds, and I should have pointed out the wing bars, excuse me. What is a wing bar? It is these, as this illustration shows, these lines. I'm not sure what's taken over my computer here, but all right. Again, these are wing bars are field marks that you can look for. Some birds don't have any. Some might have one. Some might have two. They might be white. They might be another color, or there might just be a big color patch. This is a pine warbler. These guys nest in Redding. Look at the wing patch here, the wing bars. And you see two distinct white wing bars. So this is part of the information you want to gather about a bird. All right, now let's get into some other factors that we can look at. One is called tail pumping or tail flashing. Palm warblers, when you see them on the ground or up 8, 10 feet in a tree, they're going to be pumping that tail up and down. That behavioral characteristic is going to along with these other clues, will help you to determine that it's a palm warbler. This northern water thrush, which is going to stick very low to the ground in wet, boggy areas, and we'll see for a couple of weeks in Redding, pumps not only its tail, but the whole back part of its body. So it looks kind of nervous, going up and down with that tail in its butt. Now, one other thing that we can talk about is called tail flashing, where a bird deliberately flashes, opens up its tail. And the thought is that it does this to scare insects so that they can go and get them. Now, look at this photograph of an American redstart. Look at that tan, it's, splayed out, and you can see the insect it's going for. Just a great shot by Bob Minton. All right, now, habitat. Here's a whole slew of warblers here. Where do you see them? Now, habitat works the best when you can find the warbler on its nesting grounds, because they're very specific as to what type of habitat they're going to nest in. If you're up in New Hampshire or Maine on vacation where many warblers nest, you can really use this. Now, how do you find out about the habitat of a bird? Your best bet is a good field guide. And in the resource list I put together, I've listed 3 or 4 field guides that you might want to consider using. All right, color and contrast. Some birds are quite striking, making them easily recognizable. You have the American redstart on the left in that bright Halloween costume, and the common yellow throat on the right with that black mask and the yellow throat. Now, some birds are drab and there isn't a lot of contrast. The last item I wanted to discuss is size. Now, remember, size is relative. All warblers are little, 4.5 to 5.5 inches in size. So you're not going to get one mistaken with a Baltimore Oriole or a robin or a blue jay. But there are other birds out there that are around the same size that you may get confused. In the upper left is a blue-gray gnatcatcher. The upper right, a warbling vireo. Both of these birds nest here in Redding. In the lower right is a yellow-throated vireo. They nest nearby. And then in the lower left is a ruby-crowned kinglet, which is migrating through the area at the same time the warblers are. All right, now let's take a journey through 28 different species of warblers. Now, there are probably anywhere from 32 to 36 that pass through Massachusetts, but I'm going to stay away from some of the ones that are rarer, just to cut down on the length of this presentation. First, we have the butterbutt, or the Yellowrump Wobble. These guys have a yellow rump, a yellow shoulder patch, and a yellow spot on the head. Yellowrump warblers are perhaps the most versatile foragers of all of our warblers. They're the warbler you're most likely to see fluttering out from a tree to catch a flying insect. They also can switch their diet in late fall and winter to berries. And again, here's a good shot, multiple shots here of a yellow-rumped warbler. I have seen as many as 30 of these in the town forest during a big day. These birds will be moving through here in early to mid-April, and by the first week in May, you won't be able to find one. They'll be up north on their breeding grounds. Another bird that's part of the first wave of warblers through, and this first wave is going to get going in mid-April, is the pine warbler. They nest here in Redding. They have it's relatively large for a warbler. It's got this musical trill. Sometimes this can drive you crazy because there are other birds in mid-April that are trilling, such as chipping sparrows and orange-crowned warblers if they come by, juncos if they're around. So this is a very common bird in eastern forests. And this is the pine warbler. It's rarely seen away from pines. All right, now, the third in this first big wave coming through is the palm warbler, yellow and brown with that neat contrasting chestnut cap. It wouldn't, again, surprise me to see 5, 10 of these at a time. You often see them near water. So along the banks of the Ipswich River, maybe up in Bear Meadow, up near Bear Meadow Creek, you'll see them pumping their tail. These birds are fairly low. You find them fairly low on the ground, maybe 8, 10, 12 feet up in the air. They're not going to be found real high. And again, this is the tail, one of the tail pumpers. This bird nests up in from northern New England north, and it does have a trill-like call as well. As we move into our next pulse of birds, we have the black and white warbler. These guys are streaked black and white. The males are darker than the females. They're very nuthatch-like in their behavior in that they work the trunks of trees or big limbs of trees. Now, the black and white warbler has a very high-pitched sound. If you have a difficult time hearing high-pitched sounds, this will be a challenge. Some people say it sounds like a squeaky wheel. I couldn't hear this bird for a couple of years until I got my hearing aids last year. Another real sign of spring for me is the black-throated green warbler. This bird frequents evergreens. You're going to see it in the coniferous forests in New England and in Canada. It does forage high in a tree, and it's easier to hear it than sometimes to see it. It's got that z-z-z-zoo-z, or trees, trees, murmuring trees. If you're patient and track down this song, you'll get a good look at this bird. We have the female on the left here and the male on the right. This is, again, the black-throated green warbler. One of everybody's favorite warblers is the stunning northern parula. It has that butterscotch yellow breast with black and rufous breastband. It's found in the upper canopy of trees, and it will flutter, jump off a branch, grab an insect, and so on. Again, a couple of nice shots of this. Now let's go back and play its song. Quite distinctive. So it goes right up the scale and trips off at the end. And this is the northern parula. And you'll start to see these in mid to late April as they begin their journey north. Again, I'm not sure what's happening here, but this is the Prairie Warbler. This is a bright yellow bird below, a black semicircle under the eye. The Prairie Warbler is a bird of the scrubby second growth forests and young stands of pines. This bird used to nest in Reading back when there was still, in the town forest, when it was still growing. I've talked to 3 different people, all elders, who recall seeing these birds up there with young. The Prairie Warbler flicks its tail a lot. So if you get a good look at it, you'll see that. And if you, as I said, they like second growth areas, so power lines is a popular place to go. Remember, power companies have got to clear those power lines every 10 years. And in that 10 years of growth, the Prairie Warblers will get in there and breed. I've been going over to one by Braycott Reservation the last couple of years, and there are 2 or 3 pair in there singing away over at Horn Pond Mountain, where they clear cut a couple of years ago. You'll hear them, but it's a neat bird, stunning. I like the back of the bird better. Look at the green in the back of the head, those chestnut streaks. This is one of my all-time favorite pictures. Just a really, really cool bird. And I wish I could tell you what is happening here. Now, the next warbler I want to talk about is the American redstart. This bird, this is the male, and it has that Halloween costume-like appearance. Here we have the female on the left. They have that boldly patterned tail. And again, here's the redstart going after an insect. So let's just look again. This is the male on the right, the female on the left. And I guess I don't have the song for this. Sorry about that. Thought I did. All right, now, the next bird that I wanted to talk about was the common yellowthroat. This bird does nest in Reading. What's happening on your screen is not because of me. This is the common yellowthroat. This is the male on the left and the female on the right. Notice they both have those yellow throats, but the female is much plainer brown compared to that black masked male. All right, let's move on to our next warbler. This is the yellow warbler. You can see where it got its name. This bird nests in Reading. It's a bird found around swamps, wetlands. You go up to Lobbs Pond Mill Street in Reading, you'll hear these guys singing. You'll hear them up on the town forest near the river. Just a beautiful canary yellow bird. And the male has these chestnut colored streaks on the breast. We're gonna look at that bright yellow face, the beady black eye, and those gorgeous streaks. All right, now, the northern water thrush. I hear this bird in the town forest for about 10 days every year. It's got a loud booming song. Because it dwells low, it needs a booming song to penetrate the area. You find these northern water thrushes near slow-moving, standing water. They forage very low, and they, as I said, they pump their tail and their body up and down. They have a very pale, washed-out yellow breast that's streaked. Yellow is too strong, really. It's very washed out. It's got that narrow line through its eye. Now, a relative of it, the Louisiana water thrush, prefers a different habitat. They're going to be found near moving water, streams and rivers. When I go trout fishing out at Willard Brook in Willard Brook State Forest, I always come across 4 or 5 of these guys flying about and singing. Their song is a little different. Got a 2-part, real loud. Now, let's take a look at this comparison slide here. You notice that the birds are very similar. If you get a good look, the Louisiana water thrush on the right has a broader, whiter eyebrow than the northern water thrush. The best way to separate these out is by sound. Here's another nesting bird here in Redding, the oven bird. Let's get that loud, booming, teacher, teacher, teacher. This bird is found low in the understory, often walking about. If you can get a good look at it, it has an orange crown patch bordered by black. It's large, it's got a big eye with a white ring around it. If you are patient, you can track these down. They're not real skittish birds, but they're going to be found low. They'll pop up usually anywhere from 4 to 10 feet to sing, and then pop back down onto the ground. The ovenbird got its name because it builds a nest out of leaves on the ground that looks a little like an old Dutch oven. Now, this is one of my favorite warblers, the Blackburnian Warbler. I have heard more people oohing and ahhing about this bird, known as the fire throat. Its fiery orange throat, less so than the female on the left. Both the male and the female have the triangular black facial marking with a little orange or yellow eye crescent. See that yellow eye crescent? This is the female. Now, the song of the Blackburnian is very high-pitched. And again, it was a challenge for me to hear until this past spring when I got my hearing aid. So don't get frustrated. Again, this is the Blackburnian Warbler. This is the female. And again, just a stunning fire throat, working through the leaves. Now, some of you may notice that a lot of the trees you'll see here are oak. The white oak is host to more than 100 insects, many of them different types of caterpillars. If I was to suggest to you one tree to look in for birds, it is the oak tree, especially in May when it's beginning to flower and bud. Another neat little bird of the spring is the small, compact Nashville warbler. It's got an olive green back that contrasts with that blue-gray head. You'll notice that I've used that word contrast a lot tonight, and that's something you want to look at. The other thing that stands out is that white eye ring, and it's got a loud 2-part song. All right, now let's take a look at the Black-throated Blue Warbler. This is a uniquely colored midnight blue bird. It is found in tangled understories, hardwood forests. It's kind of aptly named, I think. It's got that beautiful black face and throat. And I want you to look halfway down the body at that white patch. That is, birders will refer to that as a handkerchief. This is the female black-throated blue. Notice how different she looks than the male, but notice they both have that white handkerchief. It has a neat, relaxed, buzzy song. I'm so lazy. Again, this is the black-throated blue. This is the, black-throated blue female. And here are a couple of pictures of the male. And remember, you're going to be looking at these birds, mostly looking up at them. All right, so we're on to our next warbler, the chestnut-sided warbler. I think you can see where it got its name from, that beautiful chestnut streak. Another behavioral characteristic that you could apply to this bird is that it will often hold its tail raised at an angle. Now, you don't see that in this picture, but it'll often almost cock that tail. Notice the yellow crown, the white cheeks, the chestnut sides. This is a bird of second growth woods, dry brushlands. So old abandoned farms have been given up, are very attracted to, the birds are attracted to them. Here's another. This, the chestnut-sided warbler song. Loud and emphatic, please, please, pleased to meet you. Very emphatic at the end. All right, now, here is another neat warbler called a blue-winged warbler. This bird is a specialist of shrublands and old fields. It has benefited greatly over the last 150 years from forest clear cuts in agricultural fields that have grown up into scrubby fields. This bird has expanded its range from the mid-Atlantic up into New England, where unfortunately it has hybridized with its cousin, the golden wing warbler. Now listen to this song. Nothing musical about that. It sounds like someone's giving you the Bronx cheer, giving you the raspberry. That, and it's not real loud, but you can pick that out when you're out birding. Pretty neat. Again, I'm not exactly sure. Some ghost has taken over my computer now and then. But, all right, the next bird I wanted to touch upon with you is the magnolia warbler. This brilliant yellow and black bird, strong black streaking attached to that black neck band. Just a beautiful bird. It has that white eye arcs. Again, look at these pictures that were taken. Let's go back and now take a listen to its song. Does that sound a little bit like the chestnut-sided warbler? Yeah, a little bit to me. So it takes some work. It takes some practice. Again, This is a bird that really gets people excited. It's a common bird, not rare, but strikingly beautiful. This is probably one of my 3 favorite warblers. This is one of the bigger of the warblers. This is a bay-breasted warbler. It's kind of grayish, highlighted with a rich red, brown, and creamy buff. Does that help a little bit? Bay-breasted warbler numbers go up and down depending on outbreaks of the spruce budworm. These birds nest way up in boreal Canada and the Arctic. When those spruce budworms are abundant, the population of these warblers and a few others go up. This relationship with the spruce budworm exists for Tennessee and Cape May warblers as well, and to a degree, Blackburnian and Blackpoll warblers. This bird has a high-pitched song. Very, very, very thin, high-pitched. Well, again, this is the bay-breasted warbler, just a neat one. And then the other bird in my top 3 is got to be the Cape May warbler. It's got that mossy green back, the tiger stripe breast, and the chestnut cheek patch that make it unlike any other warbler. Its Latin, part of its Latin name is tingrine, meaning tiger stripes. You see that there? Isn't that something? Just, it's that chestnut patch. You know, people come running from all over when somebody says, oh, I got a Cape May warbler. And its song is high-pitched. Sounds like it's running out of gas there at the end. Again, this can be a real bear to hear, as these birds often are seen up in the canopy. So again, one of my favorites. All right, so we'll close with this photograph. Look at that. And again, you see all the buds coming out. So the insects are there, they're gonna pollinate things, and this guy's coming in to chow down. Now, look, the Canada warbler is an interesting bird. They can be difficult to track down. A lot of my birding friends will often grouse about this bird, saying, geez, I can hear it singing, but it just doesn't show itself. Now, when it does show itself, you're not going to miss it. Look at that great big eye ring. Really is kind of yellow, that yellow throat. It's got that black or gray necklace. Black if it's a male, gray if it's female. And look at the face on it. That necklace is really stunning. All yellow underneath. And here's its loud booming song. On a couple of the walks I led last year up at Plum Island, this bird seemed like it was 15 feet away from us singing. And it took us 10 minutes before he decided to bless us with his appearance. This again is the Canada warbler. You find them in mixed conifer and deciduous forests. They've got a lot of shrubs in the understory. Here's a small little warbler called the Wilson's warbler. It's all yellow underparts in that partial black cap, and that big beady black eye jumps right out at you. And if you look carefully at it, you can see that there is an eye ring around it that's kind of yellow. So again, this is the Wilson's warbler. They dance about willow and alder thickets, often near water, singing and going about, feeding on insects. The last 2 years, in about the second week in May, I have been fishing in the Ipswich River at Mill Street, giving away a good spot. And I'm fishing in 5, 10, 15 feet away from me, Wilson's Warbler flitting about. So they love to be near water, and they've got this neat, rapid, chattering song. Again, this is the Wilson's Warbler. You don't believe they're insect eaters? Look at that shot stand tuck, huh? Isn't that something? Now the Tennessee Warbler. This is as I said earlier, a drab looking bird until you see it in the sunlight. If you see the sunlight hit the back of this bird, that green is beautiful. Notice that thin black line through the eye, the grayish underparts. This warbler, believe it or not, is very, very abundant. In the warbler world, it's probably one of the top 10 most abundant birds. But again, it nests way up in the boreal forests, and it eats mostly small caterpillars. And as I mentioned earlier, benefits from spruce budworm outbreaks. It has a neat 3-part song. It's relatively long as far as a warbler's song goes. And because it is in 3 parts, it's kind of easy to learn. Again, this shot here highlights some of that neat green. And again, look at the little caterpillar in its mouth. When I say that warblers like to eat insects, they love caterpillars. There are hundreds and hundreds of different types of caterpillars that are out and about the end of April, May, and June. And it is by far one of the prime foods for not only these warblers, but all birds. All right, now let's move to a bird that we don't see a lot here in Massachusetts. There's probably 20, 25 pairs of these nesting, but I included it because it is such a neat bird. This is the worm-eating warble. It's got a unique color palette, olive and buff. It nests in large forest tracts, often on the sides of steep slopes that might have laurel and rhododendron, holly, and dogwood understories. One of the best places to see this is Mount Skinner State Park out in Holyoke. You walk or drive up the road and you'll hear these birds singing along the way. I took this from the Audubon drawing because I thought it was pretty cool. Now, we're moving towards the end, and we know that because we're the mourning warbler. Mourning warblers are going to be seen late in May. This is a stunning bird, the olive, gray, and yellow, and that jewel-like black chest patch. However, like so many warblers, this can be a tough one to see, but this one even more so, because they are real skulkers in low, brushy areas. You're going to hear this booming call. It's loud, cheery, 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 cheery. I don't know if Gina is in the audience tonight, but she was on a bird walk I led in the town forest 4 years ago. And one of these started to sing, and I almost freaked out because it's the first time I had ever heard one in Reading. If you go up into, say, Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, the bogs up there, they nest there. There may be a couple of pair nesting out by October Mountain State Forest in Western Mass. But here in Eastern Mass, we're just going to see them move through the area. So again, this is a morning warble, the male on the left and the female on the right. And I am going to hope and pray this doesn't. I'm not quite sure what happened here, but let's try this again. It says here that the screen sharing has stopped. So if you can help me out there.
Yeah, can you share, if you go to screen share again?
There you go.
Yeah.
There we are. And
Yeah.
let me try to get back down to where we should be. And that would be with the Blackpole Warbler. When you see Blackpole Warblers or hear them, you know that the warbler migration is just about over. If I had to pick one warbler that was my favorite, I think I would pick this just because of the incredible story behind this bird and its migration. Its fall migration is simply spectacular, where it will fly up to 1,800 miles out over the Atlantic from, say, Massachusetts down to the Caribbean. Let's take a listen. Again, notice very, very high pitched. The male has a black cap and white cheeks. And the other thing to keep in mind about these Blackpole warblers is that it has yellowish feet and legs. And that's very important for identification purposes, especially in the fall. And here's a look up at that male Blackpole warbler, black cap, the white cheeks, and you can see the yellowish feet there. And this is what a Blackpole warbler looks like in the fall. Look at those yellow feet. So I think you can understand why I stayed away from the fall, warblers. Now, I'm going to begin to bring this to a close. And I found this wonderful piece of writing by a Christine Elder. And I thought it really, says a lot. Find comfort in the pleasure of simply observing an individual without the obsession of pinning a name on it. And I think that's so important, especially for warblers and all birds. Get out there and just enjoy it. Take time to enjoy watching a bird's behavior, what it's eating, where it's foraging, and interactions with other birds in its habitat. Take notes, take photos, record its voice on your smartphone. Be in the moment with a bird, and you'll likely learn more about it than if you immediately named it and moved on down the trail. So those are wonderful words, and that's how I wanted to end tonight. Again, I want to hear the resources I used. And again, I want to thank Stan, Bob, and Mike for their kindnesses and generosity in letting me use their tremendous photographs. And I really look forward to seeing you again on April 26th as we take a look at breeding birds. There'll be a little bit of breeding bird biology, and we'll look a lot at the bright, colorful breeding birds that we have here in our area. So that is it for tonight. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to stick around and answer them. So thank you.
I have a question, if that's all right.
Sure.
I'm Bren. I just retired not too long ago, and bird watching is something I've always wanted to do, and it's something I'd like to start doing now that I'm retired and spring is coming. And so this was tonight's presentation was my first foray into birds. So thank you for that. But I'm a little already overwhelmed. I don't know where to begin. So I live in Reading, and I'm just wondering if there are any suggestions for this time of year where would be a good place to go to start looking for birds in the Reading area.
Well, we're fortunate in Reading in that we have a number of wonderful areas to go. The first being the Reading Town Forest, which you could access off of Grove Street or from Wood End School. And there's another Roma Lane, I think. And the lifeblood of the Reading Town Forest is the Ipswich River and its adjacent wetlands. They're loaded with birds. Another great place to go is Bear Meadow Conservation Land, tucked in between Pearl Street and North Main Street. Kirchian Woods off of Franklin Street. So those are three that just jump out. If you go to the Town of Reading conservation site, they have their map library, and you could print out a map. And I would start small. There's a neat new piece of property called the Mallet Conservation Land off of Willow Street that connects over to Hunt Street via a trail, and that goes across the Abajona River. And there's some neat birds there. I might urge you to consider that last slide and finding pleasure in simply observing without obsessing on the name, and just slowly build up, and you'll begin to put names to these birds. I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to try
Will
those. I'm sorry.
Keep your eye on the library website. I'm going to lead a couple of walks for them this summer. Going out on bird walks with different groups. You could look at the Brookline Bird Club, Arlington Birds, Massachusetts Audubon. They all lead walks. I got a full note here. I do lead walks for Mass Audubon and other groups. So just get out and enjoy.
And I'll put the link to sign up for our newsletter in the chat. And that's probably the best way to keep up with what's going on at the library.
And is the resources document going to include a link to the graphic of the mug shots, the graphic that had the Warbler mug shots? That was handy.
It will give you the name of the book, the Warbler Guide. Now, if you go to the Warbler Guide website, which I didn't specifically state in the resources, you could get all of those. There's like 11 pages. There's shots of just the face, the whole body, the body at an angle, under the tail. So if you Google the Warbler Guide, go to their website, and you'll see something like downloads, and they're all free. You don't have to own the book. If you want to learn more about warblers, I highly recommend the book. I think it's excellent. It's probably more than a beginner might want right off the bat, but it's a great resource. Any other questions?
Dave,
Yes.
Mary Hurley again. Just want to thank you so much for the presentation. As always, I learned more than I knew before, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. You're very welcome.
Show us the Florida birds.
All right, here we go. You want to see some Florida birds? How about some
You always
Florida
wanna-
sunsets?
Absolutely.
This is
Yeah.
Those are roseate spoonbills. I took that yesterday. Black skimmers. Oh, look at that sunset last night on Venice Beach. Maybe an adult beverage. These are Nanaday parakeets that I saw this morning. Look at that guy's face. These guys are not native, but a lot of parrots have moved up here from Central America, Mexico, South America, due to the illegal bird trade. And when they escape, sometimes they, can survive. I had 6 of these fly over the house we're renting tonight. Eastern bluebirds. You get these in Redding and you get these in Florida. This is a purple gallinoo. I have never seen one in Massachusetts. Parakeets again. Wood ducks. Checking out the wood duck box. This is a black neck stilt. Look at those bubblegum pink legs. This is my wife's favorite bird down here. Gallinoo again. This is a tri-colored heron. Those of you who are my age might have learned it to be a Louisiana heron. It's a least bitten. And I got this close up. This is a great egret in breeding plumage. That green in front of the eyes is known as the lores, L-O-R-E-S. And in some birds, it gets very, very bright during the breeding season. I thought that was pretty cool. I think some of you might get it. This is an eastern meadowlark. This is a burrowing owl. We found these guys about 45 minutes south of here the other day. Cool little creatures. We stayed a good distance away from them. They would hiss at us. There's a sandhill crane. And there's these guys, their legs don't have feathers on them, so they stand up, kind of bob and weave like a boxer, and they'll snatch you, and they look like pissed off old men. I think that's what my daughter told me. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Look at those. And I use my telephoto lens, so this is a close shot, but we were a respectful distance away and didn't stress them out. It's a little blue heron, pileated woodpecker, swallowtail kite. This is an endangered Florida scrub jay. There's a family of these. But before I digress more, if any of you have questions related to warblers, I would, really like to take those. I don't want anyone to feel left out.
Where would be the best place to find a Wilson's Warbler?
I think if you could get up to, do you know where Lobbs Pond Mill is in Redding?
No.
It's on Mill Street. Do you have somebody who could drive you up there into Redding and Mill Street?
Yeah.
I would go there in the 2nd or 3rd week in May and hang out there, and you'll see all kinds of birds. And this is where I have seen Wilson's Warblers religiously for the past 2 years. The other place I see them is at Mount Auburn Cemetery. That is just a great place for any kind of bird because of the incredible diverse habitat. But those are the two places I'd recommend you ask your parents or a friend to take you to.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining tonight. Let me see if I can get back to that Wilson's Warbler. I missed him. There we are. There's the Wilson's Warbler. Very plain-faced, neat yellow bird. Any other questions related to warblers?
The Wilson's Warbler is probably my favorite one.
It's your favorite one?
Yeah,
Good. It's a cool bird. Yep.
yeah.
I like that a lot. And it's got a neat song. If you learn that song, it will really help you. You'll hear it and you'll look in that direction and you can track it down. Kind of a loud two-part song.
Yeah.
Good. What's today? May 22nd. March 22nd. See, I'm moving into May.
Yeah.
I would
You're in
say
Florida.
in 2 to 3 weeks, we'll get that first wave of warblers, the pine warblers, Yellowrumps, palms. The other day I saw black and white down here, palm warbler. And I'm going to 2 places tomorrow morning in the hopes of finding another 6 or 7 species of warbler. Any other questions? I've stopped the sharing right now, so we're all live and in person. It's wonderful to see my 2 children. Any other warbler questions, comments?
And remember, you can email Dave if you think of any as soon as we say goodbye today.
Yes,
if you have
please, feel free to email me. I would not put my email out there if I wasn't interested in answering your questions. Growing up bird-wise, I had an awful lot of people who were kind and helpful to me. And, I feel a sense of responsibility to pass it on. So please don't feel like you're imposing. You're not at all.
Yeah, I've put Dave's email in the chat. And if you miss it, you can always email me, and then I can email you Dave's email back. Yeah. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, then I think we can probably wrap it up for the night.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you all very much for coming out today. I think it's great. And I look forward to doing this Tuesday, April 26th, I believe it is.
It is indeed.
All right. Well, thank you all. I'm going to go out to my screen porch and listen to the sights and sounds of the Florida night.
Right.
Hey.
Bye. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.